Darkcast Network. Out of the shadows comes the best of indie podcasts.
And you are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic AF. And I'm Alanna.
I'm Kelsey.
This is episode 113. Government conspiracies? What?
Yeah.
Where have you guys been for a while? We haven't done these in a hot minute since Patreon forever ago.
Yeah. True.
It was literally like one of the first, I think. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So, that tells you it's been a while.
We've done conspiracies since, though. Just not too often.
Yeah. Yeah, we are devoting this episode to it, and I love them. I'm here for it.
Mine's
They're one of
not
my
so
faves.
fun, so...
No?
No.
They rarely are, like, very good when to the people that the things happen to, and...
Yeah, this one's atrocious.
I mean, because there's a reason why they would be kept under wraps.
Yes.
That's why they're
absolutely
secret. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But even the stuff that comes out that is as true, that used to be conspiracy theories, like things like MK Ultra and stuff, is like, well, if they can fucking do that, then any of these is plausible or possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the stuff that they spend decades denying, saying, we never did that, and then they come out one day and finally say, yeah, we did that. And you're like, really?
It's COVID, so we don't care about the aliens right now, but thanks for just dropping that in. Yeah. Oh yeah, Area 51. I guess we kind of knew about aliens. Yeah, do you think? Like, we kind of knew. We kind of figured.
It's been like 90 years. No, not quite that long. Like 70.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, what was it? It was almost 19.
It's like the 50s or so. Yeah.
Almost, yeah. 47. Oh, I don't know. But mine goes back. Mine goes back a bit too. It's interesting. I can't wait. I don't even know what you're covering.
Yeah.
I can't even sit still. I'm like, ah!
Mine, I took a bit of a different direction. Mine is not anything like paranormally or anything that happened. But mine was something, once I stumbled across it, I was pretty interested in learning more about it. And that is, at one point, Canada had created what is referred to sometimes as like a Gaydar machine. And then
no! You're doing is it called the fruit machine?
Yeah.
No way!
Yeah.
I have heard of this. I
think not that I like the title The Fruit Machine, but that's how it's most
it's not great.
Most often called. And there are documentaries made by people that were involved, or like or would have at the time, like had they been around at the time, they would have been affected themselves, and they have titled those documentaries The Fruit Machine, but I typically just call it The Machine. But yeah.
The Machine. Oh my god. Okay, yeah, so not necessarily paranormal. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but it is kind of like science fiction-y. It's very Blade Runner, like we're gonna measure your pupil dilation and all that weird shit.
Or just remember the one at the office where Jim tells Dwight that he can buy a Gaydar or something, and so he like calls them up or orders it or whatever, and the gym just sends him this like I don't know, bar thing in a box. Maybe it's like those what the airport security has.
Yeah,
He just
TSA
starts like,
agents.
yeah, it's just probably
Boop,
just like a
boop.
metal detector or something. It just starts
Probably.
like, oh my god, this is gonna be
Yeah.
iconic. Okay.
Yeah. So just
Wow.
diving right in, because as much as we don't dislike bashing on Canada, so this is something very
Oh,
shitty that Canada did.
oh yeah, we've
Uh,
done some shit, and when we get back from
yeah.
our break, we'll get into some more.
Yeah, a lot of countries other than Canada were doing pretty similar things. They might not have targeted,
Oh.
like, we're targeting these demographics of people, but they maybe not were doing it about the same way. Because this device, it was basically developed by, in Canada by Frank Robert Wake, who was a psychology professor from Carleton University.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
I've
yeah,
heard of
so
her.
yeah,
The university.
they sent him to the US to find out how the US was basically using a similar type machine to try and figure out if people were gay.
Oh my god.
And then he was to report back to the Canadian government so that they could build their own machine. Uh,
What the
yeah,
hell? And it's like they should be copying us. Because, like, we were the first one. Now they do. We were the first ones to legalize weed before them. And now there's some of their states
yeah,
have started to do it. And they like follow what we
yeah,
do. What the hell were we doing following what the crazy Americans were doing at
yeah.
the time? Oh dear.
So the device was used by Canadian government's security panel, whose job it was to identify civil servants whose loyalties were in doubt because at the time the Cold War was going on. So,
Mm,
yeah.
that influenced a lot.
They were really concerned about people maybe turning sides or becoming involved with communism or giving up top secrets or things like that. So they were very concerned about who had what type of security clearance and what kind of information they were able to access.
Right. And for some reason,
Yeah.
also concerned with what they're doing in the privacy of their own bedrooms.
We'll get to it. So, because
Okay.
the people that they were targeting were those who had, at first, were any sort of character weakness. So they were
Oh.
targeting people that gambled, people that committed adultery, or even just drank heavily. And
Uh-oh.
yeah,
They'd be coming
this
after me.
reasoning this reasoning also extended eventually to anyone who was engaged in anything that would be considered sexually taboo at the time.
Okay.
Um, so
Sir.
there, right? Um,
Government.
they believed that therefore, if that individual is more likely to violate the norms of the time, that they would also be more likely to associate with communists or become a spy, or that simply they would be easier to blackmail, because at
Oh
the
my God.
time, like being gay or homosexual was illegal. Uh, so if they
Oh
found
no.
out that you were gay, they could, and you had that security clearance, they could blackmail you and it would more likely be successful because you would want to avoid people finding out about you. So,
Right. I see.
yeah.
What decade is this again?
It was in the 1950s and 1960s.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. So the machine was developed, it started being used in the 50s and 60s, mainly as this way to identify gay men who at the time were pretty commonly derogatorily referred to as fruits. That's why it's called the fruit machine quite
And
often.
that was the nice F
Yes.
word they could use.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or not even nice, but you know what I
Um,
mean. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it was to weed them out throughout many of these civil service jobs. And up to 1968, under the criminal code, homosexuality was illegal. And many psychologists believed that homosexuals suffered from character weakness, So they used the machine, or the machine was used by this special branch that was created within the RCMP during the 50s and 60s, and they operated pretty
Wow.
much on behalf of the Canadian government, um, in kind of investigating the Canadian government's employees and things like that. It was the RCMP investigating them, and they were doing it in an attempt to eliminate any of the gay men from any civil service jobs, as well as
Oh.
eventually they targeted gay men in the RCMP and the military,
Oh
and took them
no.
out. Yeah.
This was just not a
No.
good time for Canada
No.
or for being gay. And then I
Yeah.
was thinking, what did you say? It was illegal until 68?
1968,
That's
in
why they call
Canada.
it the summer of 69. No.
The summer of
Oh my god.
69.
I count how many jokes I can make. It's very, yeah, it's like this was so bad
Yeah.
that you just
So
were
I'm
like,
like, we don't
oh
shy away
god.
from Canada also being shitty. We don't just talk about the US.
Oh,
Uh,
totally. Oh yeah. We've got
yeah.
our crime here for sure.
Yep.
A lot of it's very similar to the US, of course, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So from the National Post, they had a little blurb, a few good quotes I found too. Um, saying according to former Vancouver Sun journalist John Sawatsky, he wrote a book called Men in the Shadows, the RCMP Security Service. So according to
Oh.
this John Sawatsky, in his book, he wrote that Prime Minister John Diefenbaker,
Oh, him.
jeez, yeah,
That was a while
uh,
ago.
yeah, um, that he, like the Prime Minister John Diefenbaker, he actually didn't know the exact nature of the secret project that was going on, but
Okay.
in that they did report to him and that he did multiple times accept the panel's advice that gay people needed to be removed from public office, by way of some sort of concrete proof of their sexuality, and that this machine could accomplish that. Um, yeah.
Damn. This is insane.
So,
Like, what were people drinking at
yeah.
this time?
Oh, we haven't even got to like how the machine works because it's ridiculous.
I'm a quote
Um,
unquote works. Yeah. No.
it's fucking awful.
Oh, this is bananas.
So I have some more quotes saying it was quite devastating, said Gary Kinsman, a Carleton sociology professor who co wrote The Canadian War on Queers, National
Oh,
Security as Sexual Regulation.
sexual
Um,
regulation. Wow.
yeah. His quote continues saying, especially early on, hundreds of people lost their jobs in the first couple of years in the 1960s, and people would be called into a security official's office and they would be told, we have evidence that you may be a homosexual. What do you have to say about this?
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah.
Can
So
you
getting to,
imagine?
yeah, right? It's awful. Like, but again, it's the fear you're putting into people's mind, the fear of these people having these security clearance and what if they could be flipped, and you use that to push your like stereotyped like homophobic views, and get other
Right.
people to
It's
believe in it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the
Yeah.
hidden agenda or whatever.
Yeah.
Not so hidden, I guess, but yeah. And it's
Yeah.
all like for what? For it's like just oh, in case, just in case, in case the
Yeah,
Russians
right.
decide to do something.
Yeah. So how the machine worked or didn't work. The machine
What?
basically used a chair that was pretty similar to those described as a dentist chair. So like the
Oh
ones you
God.
sit and it can kind of like reclines a bit, but it's like a full lounger kind of chair. It
Okay.
had a pulley that was attached to a camera, and these subjects or people that were being tested were often asked a series of questions while viewing pictures that switched between mundane scenes, just like random everyday pictures,
Yeah.
to pretty, I'd say pretty like pornographic material. Some
Right.
things that it was people maybe like partially nude or like wearing bathing suits, or to being like completely 100% nude and engaged in possibly sexual acts. Like,
Okay. And it's
yeah.
like
So
people of
you're
both
watching these.
genders, or it's like,
Yeah, it would go
what?
back and forth. Uh,
Mm.
and this camera that was near you would be attempting to measure the diameter of the pupil of the
Oh my
subject's
God.
eyes.
Of
Um,
course.
and this was
Why not just
called
measure the bulge if it they do or do not have in their pants? Wouldn't that be
uh,
simpler?
maybe, who knows? We won't go there. So measuring like somebody's pupil diameter is called a pupillary response test.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this was uh, trying to measure the amount of interest that the subject had in that specific photo that they were looking at that time. The test
Wow.
also would measure their perspiration, breathing rate, and pulse. Um, so it was multiple things that they were measuring.
It sounds kind of like a what do you call it? A lie detector test where they're like, all they can
Yeah,
really measure is like how
your
you're
response,
reacting to like, well, a
a
lot of times it's
question.
the stress of the situation and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And really, I don't know. So stupid.
Um, so another quote from Sawatsky, who wrote the first book, quote, the plan was to monitor as many psychologic or physiological variables as possible in the hope of finding a reliable method for identifying homosexuals without arousing the fear and anxiety involved in the polygraph test. Because people didn't
Oh,
actually understand what they were being tested on. They were told they were
really?
being tested for something else. And then they would take the test and soon find out. You know,
That's
you're
so
sitting there thinking you're
sneaky,
taking a test for something, and suddenly they're showing you porn, and you're just like, what the fuck
right?
is going on? I'm at
You're
work.
confused, so your pupils are
Cool.
dilating in shock. Like your
Yeah.
eyes are widening. You're like, what the hell was
Yeah.
that? Oh my.
Uh, the idea for this specific machine was based on a study by an American university professor who, I would love to get more into this because this is ridiculous. His study measured the size of subjects' pupils as they walked through aisles of grocery stores in an attempt to try and determine which product packaging interested people the most. I would love
Oh.
to know how successful that study was because that sounds ridiculous. Like,
I mean, it's just not the kind of job that I want or need or would
why
be.
not just show people to and be like, which one do you like more? Which one makes you want to buy something more?
Yeah, don't isn't that what
Instead
they
of,
do now? Focus groups and tests and yeah,
yeah,
test groups, audience.
they
Like
aren't
yeah, it's the
strapping
one
a
with the sex on
GoPro to
it.
your head. Yeah.
That's what sells.
Yeah. Uh, Another test that you was used by the project involved the subject sitting. This was only mentioned once, holding a bag of crystals, like this crystal substance that was known to change colors when exposed to moisture. And small changes in the subject's sweat on their hands was measured while they read homosexual words. Um,
What? Oh no.
so this was also part of the test that they conducted. Some of the words included queer, gay, drag, and bar. Just bar. Um,
And bar. Oh,
yeah, just
okay.
simply bar.
Sure.
Um, yeah.
It all makes
So,
perfect sense.
right. Therefore, if the subject reacted to pornographic images of someone of the same sex, they would be classified as homosexual and therefore deemed to be a threat to national security. Whether or not they had access to any of these so called classified information that they were worried about, they just started weeding out everybody. It didn't matter if you had access to like secrets or not.
Oh,
They were
great.
just,
Yeah. Like
yeah,
I guess we could have should have seen that coming.
yeah.
Right.
Another quote from Kinsman says, "We supposedly suffered from a character weakness that meant that we were vulnerable to blackmail from evil Soviet agents. The people that we talked to for the book, they say that the only people who ever tried to blackmail them were the RCMP themselves, who tried to force them to give over other names of lesbians and gay men that they knew of." So at first, subjects who were actually volunteering to take this test, they were told that the machine would rate their stress levels. So imagine sitting down, they're like, "We're going to rate your stress levels." And then they're just like, mundane picture, pornograph, like porn. And you're just like, what kind of test is this again? Like,
I thought you said stress levels, not
yeah, like
lust
it'd be
levels.
yeah, so people didn't really understand at first what they were being tested on. They were told it was going to test
No.
stress, and people were voluntarily taking it. But soon word spread
Wow.
around, and the true purpose of the machine and these tests got like spread out. People started knowing about it, and very few of them continued to volunteer for the test. But I assume we're probably like forced to. If they wanted to keep
Right.
working, I'm sure you had to say you would take the test.
And just hope, yeah, for the best.
Yeah.
Like, jeez.
So the accuracy, quote unquote, of the machine at the time was very questionable. Even the pupillary test itself was based on flawed assumptions, mainly the belief that visual stimuli could lead to an involuntary reaction that could be somehow measured. It also relied on the belief that homosexuals and heterosexuals would respond to stimuli differently. Um, and lastly, it relied on the belief that at the time that there were really only two types of sexuality, like
Yeah,
being homosexual or
exactly.
not. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, these researchers also failed to take into account the varying size of each person's pupil
Oh my
and the
God. Just the most
and
basic of like the bare minimum, you
yeah, they
guys.
had no way to measure that, and they also
Oh, for God's
something
sakes.
it said that they also failed to take into account the distance between each person's eyes. Not the eyes in the camera, but the person's eyes. So I'm not sure
Like,
what that plays into it too. Maybe the camera couldn't catch both at the same time or something. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Um,
I just know you need to know that when you order your glasses online. They're like, what's
yeah,
the distance between your pupils or whatever? And you're like, oh my
yeah.
God, just a
Standing up
second.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That's annoying.
So, other problems also included the fact that the camera was placed at an angle in relation to the person's eyes, because placing it directly in front of them would block the subject from being able to see the pictures.
Well, yeah.
Um, yeah.
This is insane. I'm sorry.
Um,
Oh,
the brightness of each photo was also different depending on the slide. So, some were really bright and some were way darker,
oh my
and it would
God.
just go back and forth. This caused, as you could understand, just a subject's pupil to dilate in response to the brightness of the picture, whether or not they were
Yeah.
interested in it or not. Like, just the
Literally the one
brightness
thing
of it.
guaranteed, yeah, to make your pupils
Yeah.
dilate, like light flooding in.
Um, this particular problem, sources did say the scientists did spend a lot of time trying to fix and a lot of money trying to fix. But it said they had no success. So like they couldn't control the brightness of the picture somehow. Um,
They can't
yeah, who
control
knows?
literally any like part of it,
It's
which means
ridiculous.
it's the least
Yeah,
scientific thing ever because you don't
freaking
have any
crazy,
controlled variables or anything like that.
right? Yeah. Um,
Oh dear.
it also said that dilation of pupils is also exceedingly difficult to measure, as changes are often less than 1 millimeter. Like, so it's so little of a change in somebody's pupils.
That is
Um,
microscopic for those of you that use inches and crap. Like that is like
yeah,
so fucking small.
yeah, it's not in movies when somebody does a line of coke and then it zooms in on their eyes and their eyes go like shit. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
that.
coke, other
Yeah,
drugs.
yeah.
Will dilate the fuck out of your pupils. Yep.
All I think of is Coke because I watched Cocaine Bear, and it was the best movie in
Oh,
existence. It was so good.
did I? I think we watched it. It was so good.
Ugh,
I don't remember
I
it.
loved it.
Maybe I didn't.
I thought it was
That's fine.
so funny.
It's Elizabeth
Yeah,
Banks directs, right?
yeah,
Yeah, she's good. She's funny.
yeah. I liked it. Um,
Cocaine
yeah.
Bear. That was pretty. They covered that whole story on Sinisterhood, like the guy
Mm,
that dropped the
yeah,
cocaine and all his life, and then the bear and everything that happened with that. And, it was pretty interesting, actually. Yeah.
yeah. The
Yeah.
bear isn't too involved. They say the bear only possibly ingested like 1 to 3 grams of cocaine,
Oh, okay.
and
That's not a
that's all
ton.
it
Yeah.
possibly could have ingested. It was
Yeah.
not
Poor
doing
thing.
rails of cocaine off of severed limbs like in the movie. It's
What?
pretty great.
Okay, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah.
Need
It's
to rewatch.
yeah.
Cocaine Bear.
So for the exact numbers are unknown, but according to Kinsman, the Canadian government spent more than 15,000 or about or sorry, more than 10,000 or 80,000 today in just 1 year of this project's like completing these tests.
Okay. Great use of
Um,
funds.
right? He says,
Yeah.
quote, "It wasn't just some bizarre little experiment that a couple of people in the corner over there in the RCMP or in the military decided to do.
Oh my.
It could never work. It never did work, but the government poured thousands and thousands of dollars into it." Um,
Great job,
so
guys. This is just a
yeah.
shining point in our national history. Lord.
Project funding from the Defense Research Board was eventually cut off in 1967, as it said that the panic over homosexuals had started to die down um,
They're getting ready for the
around this
satanic
time.
panic. Oh.
Yeah.
Ready for the next panic.
Um,
Arbitrary.
yeah, and
Yeah.
by this time, like all this damage was already done. A huge number of people, I ran into up to like 9,000 people had been subjected to this testing and like
Oh.
thoroughly investigated, with hundreds of them being fired from their jobs and charged, some of them even being charged with crimes of sexual abnormality, with little to
Okay.
no evidence against them, just like them failing this test, which could have happened for any
Wow.
number of reasons, whether or
That
not they
is
were
the
actually homosexual.
sorry. Yeah.
So,
That's awful.
yeah. Many of those tested continued even after the project was done, to be investigated by RCMP. The RCMP even focused, like after the project was done and they weren't focusing on like civil servants anymore, the RCMP decided to look inwards and focus on their own members more heavily at this time. They developed a
Great.
series of indicators for homosexuality that they used to help identify gay RCMP officers. This
Time to
included,
turn Gaydar inward.
yeah, this included driving white cars, wearing rings on the pinky finger, and wearing tight pants.
So all the Italian gigolos
Yes,
of the 70s were like,
yeah.
what the fuck?
You have a gold chain on your neck?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my
You wear hair
god.
product? No. Um, it's just awful.
That
Um,
is insane.
so they ended up, like, as they were focusing inward, they followed members. They placed undercover men posing as gay men in parks and bars, trying to like basically hit on people and figure out who was gay. Because at this time, um it was probably just, I think it would have been just before it was like not illegal anymore to be gay. So I think that's why they're
Wow.
still doing this. Um, and they
That's so
actually
crazy to
recruited,
even think that it was that not that long
right?
ago, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're doing all this stuff, and the RCMP even recruited gay men to act as informers, to kind of like rat each other out. Um,
Jeez, of course. That's
Yeah.
always good. That always works out well. Just tell
Yeah.
us who you think are the witches, and we'll do the
Yeah.
rest, and nobody innocent will ever come to harm. Like,
Yeah.
okay, every
Um,
witch hunt ever.
I wanted to point out that one of the sources said that while they recruited gay men as informers, it said that lesbians rarely cooperated. So they couldn't get any lesbians to cooperate or
Oh
rat each other
God.
out, according to the
Lesbians need
source.
not apply.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, oh,
Oh,
that's awesome. Like, but I don't fault the
jeez.
gay men that did rat each other out because I'm sure there was a lot of pressure put on them and it was horrific.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
around bad deal for them at this time, clearly.
So in 1969, a royal commission on security ended up recommending that um like LGBTQIA2S plus employees be allowed back to work. But it
Okay.
also, in this commission, it said, while they should be allowed to go back to work, it also said that, quote, they should not normally be granted clearance of higher levels. They should not be recruited if there is a possibility that they may require such clearance in the course of their careers, and they should certainly not be posted to sensitive positions overseas.
Sure,
So
sure,
there
sure, sure.
was even a chance you were going to get promoted and ever have access to that information. They should not give you the low level job, even. Like,
So,
yeah.
thanks for nothing?
Right? Like, that's still shit. Um,
Exactly. You have no
yeah.
possibility of advancement. Great. Good to know.
Yeah. Um,
Mm.
so kind of what I ran across, it said that war against like LGBT civil servants specifically didn't end in just the late 1960s, when this kind of stopped. In
Mhm.
1973, Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, Justin's father,
Pierre Elliott
confirmed,
Trudeau, you say?
yeah, the
Is it Justin's true father or is Justin's true father Fidel Castro? That's another conspiracy theory we won't get into
I
today.
know, yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so Pierre Trudeau, he confirmed that suspected homosexuality in 1973 was one of the factors the government was considering before clearing any federal employee to handle classified
Wow.
documents.
Wow.
Um, yeah.
So
And
barely
then
barely any progress at all
yeah.
since it ended
Um
at that time.
and then RCMP also continued investigating homosexual people up until the late 1980s to some things said early 90s. And it was around this time that official policies were starting to change in the 90s. But they were still investigating people up until that time, even though it was no longer illegal and hadn't been for like 12 years
Yeah,
at
but
least.
people were still completely
Afraid.
ostracizing
Yeah.
gay people,
Yeah.
and especially during the 80s and the AIDS epidemic and all that crap. Oh, it's just
Yes.
awful. It get there's
Uh,
one Canadian um fucking flight attendant gets blamed as being um what is it called? Patient zero for the AIDS epidemic. Well, I learned on
oh,
a podcast that's because he was participating in a program and they called him Patient O, but somebody thought it was Patient
oh,
Zero, so then he got called like Patient Zero for like get blamed for
jeez.
spreading the AIDS epidemic or like it's like
Oh,
no. Isn't that awful though? Like that's how easily
yeah,
people's whole lives get besmirched and stuff.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Um, so the next thing, I don't know, it was like, I don't really get this quote. This was from that, like, what did I say his first name was? Frank Robert Wake. He was the one that, like, developed the machine for Canada.
Dr. Wake,
Um,
right.
Dr. Wake. He said in 1992, just prior to his death, quote, I think it was worth doing because it may have brought us a lot of knowledge of homosexuals. And he continued on to add that he was much more tolerant of homosexuality than others around him. And continued saying, quote, "The others have caught up to me," end quote. Like,
I
fuck you.
have no words.
Yeah.
Just a very stank ass look on my face the whole time you were talking and eyes rolling into the back of my
Fuck
head.
you. Yeah.
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 If this were a
I'm
video
much more
podcast.
tolerant than those around me.
Oh,
But I
okay.
cost hundreds of people their jobs. La da da.
Oh yeah, he's changed now, Kelsey. Don't you know? He's
So
much more
going
woke. He's
on.
Dr. Woke.
It's not Dr. Wing.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Uh,
Oh my.
Sorry.
I don't have too much more. So like the people involved or that were affected by this spent several decades, as you can imagine, waiting for some sort of apology from the government. Um, they were quoted as saying this apology has to be pretty broad ranging and pretty comprehensive, including things like the Canadian government's participation in things like the fruit machine, said Kinsman, saying, quote, "This is a major violation of these people's rights."
Chaw.
But at the time, like, there wasn't the same protections they have now about not being fired based on your sexuality. That didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
so
that's true.
this, like, they called purging of civil servants was officially publicly exposed in 1992. Until then, like, people may have talked about
Wow.
it, but it really wasn't acknowledged by the government that they had done this.
Sure, sure,
Um,
sure. And it's not like the internet was really around to
yeah,
help spread it, and
yeah,
podcasts and
yeah. Uh,
podcasters like you.
right? So when I came across this, I was like, oh, I really want to talk about this because this is
Yeah,
crazy. Like,
it's not well known. I
no,
only
like,
once heard it vaguely on one podcast,
yeah.
maybe. Like,
Um, yeah. So
yeah.
finally, it's publicly exposed in 1992 when Prime Minister Brian Mulroney ends up having, like, he gets word of it that people want this apology. So Brian Mulroney, he ends up denouncing it as, quote, "one of the greatest outrages and violations of fundamental human liberty."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. Um, it's
Those are
part
great.
apology. Like, what else are you gonna do about it? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so in 2017, uh, like long time later, Canadian Prime Minister and son of Pierre, Justin Trudeau,
Son of a
um,
Pierre. Yeah.
son of a Pierre, Trudeau just likes apologizing for stuff. It seems,
I just think he likes to hear
which
himself talk.
this is definitely. I'm happy he apologized for this
He has a
publicly.
lot of things he has a lot of things
Yeah,
that needed apologizing for in his
yes,
past.
yeah.
Anyway.
So he apologized for the mistreatment of gay and lesbian people during the Cold War, like
Okay.
that was like a fear thing, and then more
Ah.
specifically in the involvement of removing these. Some sources said thousands, but most likely it was like hundreds of people, um,
Right.
like homosexual people and people that weren't homosexual, from public
Mm-hmm.
service, military, and RCMP jobs because of Wake's machine. Um, and
Okay.
at this time, he also announced there was going to be a 145 million compensation package released, which included 110 million that was going to be paid out as part of this huge class action lawsuit settlement for all these civil servants
Oh,
who had lost their jobs because of the discriminatory actions against them. I don't know
wow.
how many people were involved in this like class action lawsuit. Um,
Okay.
but
Oh,
yeah,
I heard
Gordo's El Gordo's awake.
you may have heard my
Um,
neck crack. I don't know. It felt really good though.
oh yeah. In 1998, there was a play that was called The Fruit Machine, done by Brian Drader, and it follows kind of two storylines that run at the same time or run parallel. The first one follows the Machine Project, and then the other one follows like contemporary homophobia. And
Ooh.
Also in
Sounds like a
2000,
fun time. No.
yeah.
Sorry.
Also in 2018, there was a documentary called The Fruit Machine done by Sarah Fody.
Okay.
And it followed the effects of the project on several of the subjects who were who had taken the test and had been fired based on their results. Um, I'll put a link to that because I found it online that you can watch it for free. We'll have a link on our website page if anybody wants to watch it. I think it was about an hour, maybe an hour and a half long. I myself didn't
Okay.
watch it. I ran out of time, but
Well, that's
yeah.
one thing we're gonna hope to pre-record ahead more so we can have
Yeah.
time to do those things for the cases, because yeah,
Yeah.
definitely does take some
Um
time.
mhm.
I love a good
Um
documentary though.
yeah. There are similar machines that are still used in various countries for different kind of
What?
purposes. Yeah. Um,
Seriously?
and oh shit, I meant to look this up. The plethysmograph. The
Whoa.
plethysmograph. um, which this apparently is able to measure blood flow to the genitals while a
Oh
subject views
my
various
god.
images. It's no longer, it was at some point, it's no longer used to try and determine someone's orientation, but instead is used in countries like Canada and the US to try and measure a person's arousal to specific people, mainly those who are pedophiles. Um, Ephedophiles? I meant to look that up too. Um,
Whoa.
and rapists.
What?
So they actually still use
Insane.
this. Um, yeah, in
Sounds like a
Canada and
freaking
the
like
US.
chastity belt or something. It's like, how can you measure that
Just like
unless it's like
sensor.
strapped around the genitals? Like what?
I'm sure, yeah.
A
It's
blood
like,
pressure cuff?
oh shit.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, so they do use this. These tests are not admissible in court, but they are sometimes used to see if someone is likely to reoffend, like based on their like
Whoa.
physical reaction to these images. So they use them like pedophiles, rapists,
Crazy.
and stuff in Canada and US even today. Um, yeah. Just for
That
like the
is
purposes of
wild.
possible reoffending. It seems. Um, there was a similar test to the one I talked about with the machine that was used in Czechoslovakia. I don't know around what time or what year to determine if two of these refugees from Iran who were trying to seek asylum um, should be granted asylum because they were trying to get it basically because they were saying that they were gay. Um, so they were trying to figure out if they should be granted asylum for fleeing Iran,
Oh
and try and
no.
determine if they were actually gay or not, because the penalty for being gay in Iran is death. So they
Oh
used
god.
this test to try and determine if they were actually gay or not. I don't know how that ended up going for them, but
Oh my
um,
god, what the hell?
yeah, and I
That
don't know
is
when that test
insane.
occurred. Um, and then another couple things I wanted to mention because one of the sources was like, here's some fun facts in case you didn't know. And some of them were interesting, and some of them was like, here's the definition of what a beard is. And I was like, who doesn't know what a beard is? Like,
Okay.
it was so random. It had some of these facts, like that Delta Airlines once argued that they should not have to pay as much for a gay passenger that ends up dying aboard the airline, like in a plane crash or something, because the gay person could have had AIDS,
Oh my
which would have
god.
killed that person anyway. So, like, the AIDS would
Cause
have
we're
killed them.
Delta Airlines and life is a fucking nightmare.
Nightmare. Yeah.
That
Um,
felt appropriate to the
Yes, it
situation. I'm
is.
sorry.
Yeah, so they tried to argue that like if a gay person died in a plane crash, they shouldn't have to pay as much because that person may have had AIDS and that they would have died from the AIDS anyway. So they just died earlier than they should have died technically in their
I'm
lives.
just
But
shaking my
yeah,
head. Sorry, which is
your
great for
face
a
right now.
podcast. My eye
Yeah.
is twitching. It's twitching.
Yeah.
I'm
Um
stress
I don't know
mode.
I don't know when they had this enforced. The source didn't say, and I don't know how long it was in place, but Delta Airlines did later apologize for trying to make this argument. Good.
Uh-huh.
Like, fuck. Um,
Too little, too late.
yeah.
Oh my
The one thing
gosh.
also had in their little facts that from 1952 to 1990, the US Congress had a law which banned lesbian and gay foreigners from entering the country. Just, I don't
Wow.
know in what circumstances or just at all, but
Yeah, it
sounds
sucks
shitty.
because it's still, hard for, yeah,
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus to travel to certain countries,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, because where it's still
Yes.
freaking illegal and crap like that. So
It's
they have to go to
horrifying.
places that are
Yeah.
gay friendly and
Yeah.
yeah,
Ugh.
that's
And some of
terrible.
these countries that had, like, kind of had just gotten in and were starting to grant rights and stuff have now kind of backslid, and a lot of these rights are
Oh,
going away
really?
again. Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Um, yeah, it's pretty
Please,
awful.
please don't tell me we've stopped our forward progress. Like,
Right?
we can't go backwards,
Yeah.
guys. We need to get to interstellar travel. We need to
Yes.
get the hell out of here.
My last thing that I wanted to end on was just saying that in Canada, um, now a person cannot be fired from their job due to their sexual orientation, like no matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And while the country does not explicitly grant or deny such a right to the LGBTQIA2S plus people under the Canadian Constitution, the Supreme Court has ruled that Section 15(1) of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms does protect against discrimination, including sexual orientation. So, like, um, yeah, it does fall under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms for
Mm-hmm.
that, which is
Right,
good.
like you're not able to discriminate based on race or religion, or
Yeah, and
they don't deny
they
people
can no
jobs for
longer
that.
fire you based on your sexual orientation. So, know your rights. Know your rights, people. Like, people always
Yeah.
say that online, like, stuff like that. So, yeah, it was wild looking into this one. When I stumbled across it, I was like, oh, this one's really interesting, and fuck Canada for ever doing this in the first place.
We're airing our own dirty laundry over here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we are.
we're fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome because that's awesome that you covered it because I probably would have been too scared. I'm like, what if I say something? What if I offend somebody somehow? What if I make a joke and somebody takes it? I don't know. Like, it's just
Yeah.
such a touchy kind of thing to have to even talk about that way, that,
Yeah.
needs
That's
to
why
happen. Yeah.
I liked the one source. It was mostly what was it? The National Post, I think it was. Yeah. The National Post that had um all the quotes from those two gentlemen that had written the books.
Mm.
Um like talking about it. So I really liked that because a lot of what I had read, I was able to back up kind of with quotes that they were saying from the research that they had done or their involvement. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Things I
Well,
really hated,
right.
especially I don't love the part about them still using certain questionable tactics to try and figure out if people are going to like reoffend, even if they're
Yeah.
pedophiles or rapists. It's like, first of all, like, I don't know. I don't know if a raper is going to offend again, a rapist or whatever, but
Yeah.
like, doesn't mean they're never going to have a fucking other sexual urge in their life. So how can
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
like be
that
like,
one I
oh,
don't
they got a
really.
boner, like they're gonna fucking like, ugh. We
Yeah.
should just be working on how to rehabilitate people somehow.
Yeah, they said it was part of like their like psychology kind of stuff with like psychiatrists and everything working with them that they'll administer these tests to see what kind of state they're in or where they're at in their like treatment, I guess.
Mm.
So, yeah,
Ugh.
who knows? Yeah, right?
Grunt.
Yeah, I feel bad for
Oh
anybody that
god.
has to administer any of those tests to a pedophile.
Oh my
Like,
god.
oh,
Can
yeah.
we just do what Lucille Bluth used to always say to her grandkids? They put all the rapists, all the pedophiles, or no, all the rapists and all the murderers on an island, and And at the end
Oh
of it,
yeah.
there's only one raped murderer left or something.
Yeah.
Maybe he's like, oh, is it one raped murderer left? I always thought it was I was like, oh my god. Lucille Bluth. Iconic.
Yeah. I mean, I see nothing wrong with people that are in prison that want to take out rapists and pedophiles.
Right, that
I will send
happens.
you commissary money. Like, fuck them. Yeah.
Also, I thought I heard about like some kind of weird island like that where, oh my god, I don't know.
Is it
I'm
not
not
just
gonna say it
Australia?
because it
Fucking
not
Australia
just
back in the day?
like they made
Alcatraz?
some new penal colony for pedophiles. I don't know. Now I don't know what's
Oh.
something I read in real news and what is something I saw on
Oh.
TV. No, I haven't been watching the new Black Mirror yet, so it probably wasn't that. But
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea, but that was
Anyway.
crazy. Crazy.
Yes. We will take a. Well, for you guys, it'll be like half a second. For us, it'll be a few minutes. We're gonna take a break and we'll be back.
I need a mental break now.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. We are back with a Gordo or two. There's a dog outside of my room.
Gordo wants attention. He's currently laying by my mic, opening and closing stuff on my laptop with his head.
Gordo.
Because he stretches back
Oh.
and then his head will like turn caps lock on. And it'll roll over and it'll like open a tab. He sneezed.
Hello, I see your little eyeballs.
He sneezed. That's so great. I hope that
Oh,
got
I
on
thought
the
it was
mic.
just because he just keeps shaking his collar sometimes.
No, he also sneezed. Did you sneeze? El Gordo sneezed. He looks so
Look at
dopey
my-
right now.
Some
He's
dopey.
gonna. Ready? He sneezed again.
Jesus Christ. Clearly, there's going to be some cat outtakes on this episode too. Did you guys like the 4 minutes of cat shenanigans I put in the bloopers, the outtakes the last episode?
Okay. Gordo.
Now you know what we deal with.
He's trying to get behind my laptop, and every time he moves it starts closing.
El Gordo. Viva somewhere else. No. Yeah, that was funny when my brother was like starts his text out with Viva El Gordo. Oh my god,
buddy. He's like rubbing against my laptop and it's moving the whole top of it.
Yeah, I could see the screen moving.
Yes. You're being so okay.
You sat still for Kelsey's segment, I noticed.
Yeah. Put your head in the box.
Oh my god.
Be in the box. Be a box cat. Again, please.
Put your head in the box. I'm reading this book about a fucking what are they called? Crusaders? You know, the Crusaders.
Oh. Fuck.
Oh yeah, he was apparently one of the worst ones. It's fun. And it said something like, oh, there's exaggerated tales about him throwing people off of his castle and stuff, though there's no proof of that, but there was some detail. There was some detail about putting their heads in a box and then throwing them so they would be sure to be conscious all the way down, and I was like, what the fuck?
How
are you talking about? I don't know.
Okay. I've never heard of that one before.
I barely understood it when I was reading it. I don't know. Like I said,
I don't know how that would keep somebody conscious. They'd probably suffocate in the box first.
Sure.
Strange.
It wasn't elaborated on, we'll say that.
All right. Gordo is back in the box.
He's a cat in a box. I found my post-it note on my notes that has a fun fact on it and a reminder that there's an aerial school UFO incident documentary I need to watch now. Because guess who? One of my favorite podcasts, Sinisterhood, is covering the same thing I did, the aerial UFO and school incident or whatever that I talked about.
In Africa, right?
Back. Yeah, it's in Zimbabwe. Anyway, I was like, oh,
Cool.
they're doing it, and they're gonna do a real good job. They're doing a two-parter. Oh. Anyway, so there's a
Wow.
documentary called Aerial Phenomenon, I guess. So yeah, I'm gonna have to find that, and you should too.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
that's what we'll do. That'll be our documentary to watch it. Homework? No. And also,
We'll
I
have
wrote down,
3 alien-themed Patreons in a row.
we love our aliens. Oh, for Patreon? Yeah. No, I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch it for fun though.
For funsies.
Um, this I didn't know. Did you know that when Edgar Allan Poe was born?
No, I did not know when he was
You
so
should, because he was
random.
born on January 19th. So
Really?
that's
Oh.
that's your
I
birthday.
share my
Yeah,
birthday with Edgar.
1809.
Oh.
Apparently. Yeah,
Wow.
I heard it
That's
on a
cool.
podcast, so it must be true. I Wikipedia to make sure.
You Wikipedia, it must be true.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and his family was from Scotland, so there you go. You
Cool.
got Edgar Allan Poe, I got fucking what's his name? Einstein, Albert Einstein. His birthday is
Oh.
March 14th. And guess what? They both married their cousins. I was like, oh, that's a similarity they both share when they were talking about
It was
Edgar Allan
of the
Poe.
time. Cuminate in the family.
I'm glad that fell out of favor. Okay.
Yeah. It's not the norm anymore.
No, but it does still happen. I
Yeah.
knew someone who knew someone whose cousins were married. Yeah.
First
Well,
cousins?
anyway, first cousins, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
God.
And then, oh my God, there was a funny story my friend was telling me at work. She said that she was living in a small town and she was going to date this guy. And then her father said, no, you can't date him. And she goes, why? And he goes, he's your half brother.
Oh, shit.
Like, what the what?
They were talking
No,
about
she's.
that on the radio one day about long
Oh,
lost
really?
siblings and everything, and somebody said they found out in their very, very small town that there was like 3 other families on their street that they were like half related to. I was like,
Whoa, someone
what?
got around.
Yeah, it was like their grandfather or something. I was like, yeah, like,
Oh, shit.
yeah.
Or like those stories you hear where people like are doing their
He's on the
23andMe
oh,
or
yes.
yeah, their ancestry or whatever, and then they're like, haha, it says I'm like 50% Mexican. Mom? Mom? And
Yeah.
they're like, I have something I have to tell you. Those stories are
Yeah.
crazy.
I watched that was it that one about that doctor that used the like artificial
Oh,
insemination, and he kept using his own sperm, and then there's like I think
yes.
170 something kids now that are his. Fuck.
That was in Canada too. I think he was from
Yeah.
Ottawa. Oh my God.
Something like
Wow.
that. Oh.
Oh, Canada. This is our. Okay, this one, my story is in the US. So
Okay.
we're about to
Now we
bash
can
on our
hate on the
neighbors to the
US.
south. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna put them on blast.
Mm.
We love you guys though. We do. We see all you. We still have our big one. Was it Virginia is usually our biggest state? So we love you. Okay. This one. Okay, because I had to switch because I was going to do. So when I jotted it down I was going through some of the conspiracies they covered on Creeps and Crimes because
Yeah.
I was recently been listening to a lot of them and I knew she had just covered quite a few to get ideas for this one. And then I had jotted one down that they had just referred to as the gateway experience. But then when I start looking into it, I was like, how many pages in, and it's like, this sounds familiar. And then also something just said this was um, the remote viewing, and this is what Kelsey covered
Aw.
for Patreon. It was just
The
that
men
they
who
hadn't
stare at
called it.
goats. Yeah.
Yeah, but they hadn't
Yeah.
said.
No, I don't remember running across anything saying the gateway experience.
Yeah, it was kind of like explaining it in different ways that wasn't the same. It was like, using your mind outside of the box and it's, like just all
Yeah.
this different experiments with expanding your mind and shit. And I was like, this doesn't sound like anything we've done before, but then it turned out it was. So like I'm like, God, they're
Yeah.
all connected. They all sound the same. And
That was the first conspiracy episode I did because I love
yeah.
the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Okay, yeah. See, I haven't
So,
watched that in a while either. Give
oh,
that
I
a
love it so much.
give that a
So
review.
funny.
Isn't who's in it? Ewan
George
McGregor?
Clooney and Ewan McGregor.
Yes, hell yeah. Enough
And
said.
fuck, what's his name?
I don't know.
The Big Lebowski guy. He's the crazy guy
Oh,
that's in charge of
long
um
pause.
he's in charge of like the whole government thing, and then boo, Kevin Spacey. He's also in it.
Yes, Jeff Bridges. I'm
Jeff
just having
Bridges.
such a brain
He's in
fart.
charge of like he's the government woo woo guy that's in charge of the whole project there. He's Jeff Bridges.
Moving right along, we are going to cover the Montauk Project.
Oh,
So,
I'm
may or may
familiar
not
with the
sound
name, but not
familiar.
the details.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sure I know this one pretty good, but no, not as well as I thought. I was like, thought I knew the gist.
Yeah.
But it will definitely start to sound familiar in some places. So we'll just dive right in. Now that we got our tangents out, that
Yeah.
was our intro banter. 12 minutes of
Yeah. It's on your
yeah,
half, not
in
mine.
my half.
Haha.
Oh no! Now I'm gonna get accused of going long. No. All right, so I said so. Montauk Project is also it's the story of Camp Hero, or should maybe they have called it Camp Superhero? Dun dun dun.
Oh, okay.
um, the project was named for the area it was conducted in, which was on Long Island. It's in Montauk on Long Island, which is in New York State.
Okay.
I definitely had to double check because I was like, is Long Island a state? And then I was like, oh no, I kept saying New York State everywhere. Right.
I can't hear Long Island without thinking of Long Island Medium. That
Oh,
like
Long
lady.
Island Medium. Oh,
Fucking
yeah, yeah,
lady.
yeah.
My mom was obsessed with her show. I watched so many
Oh,
hours of
really?
her. Yes.
I just thought you were going to say Long Island iced tea, which is the only other
No.
thing that comes to
I
mind for
I
me.
don't like alcoholic iced tea, so I do not like Long Island iced tea.
Oh, when I worked at the bar, we made it with like 4 different shots and then Coke and lime. There wasn't even anything remotely iced tea in it.
Oh, ew, that just sounds
Yeah,
so gross. Just
it
sounds like
was.
a
It was.
what is it they call the slushy when you just mix everything together? Swamp water. The
Yes,
swamp water
exactly.
shot.
All the flavors, yeah, or all the alcohols that you have.
So gross.
Nice.
Oh.
Um, yeah, so it was it was on Long Island Medium. No, it was on Long Island in New York. What's that other medium show? Isn't there?
There's a few of them now that they've had. They have a celebrity medium guy now that always does readings about celebrities like dead loved ones, and I was like, you probably
Oh,
could have heard
yes.
this from Wikipedia. Like or
I think I've seen him on
interviews.
come
Yeah.
up on my YouTube.
He's like
I thought there was
19
another.
or some shit. Like just get out of here.
Yeah, he's
I
really
believe.
young. I thought there was another like me or psychic one with a funny name or something, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
Um, Someone's shouting it somewhere. So, yeah, for brevity's sake, now you got me thinking of Big Lebowski, and I'm pulling out the brevity words, which I remember having to ask what the fuck that meant. I was like, oh, shortness. Okay, so, or for ease, we'll be calling it Camp Hero, but at the time it was all this was all happening at the Montauk Air Force Station. in Montauk. So,
Okay.
but for now, just know that Camp Hero is essentially the same area. It's just a big park now. It consists of a vast underground complex that housed and trained and experimented on young boys and girls. Trigger
Boo.
warning. Yeah.
Jeez.
um. So yeah, mine's not great either. It's also not really proven though. Like yours has been declassified or
Yeah.
whatever now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Kelsey likes those. I like the sometimes I like the I don't know, the unconfirmed ones.
Yeah,
The
it
off the radar ones.
depends.
Yeah.
There's enough like crazy shit that we've done that they proved they've done. I feel like I don't want to
Yeah.
think about the ones that people are just throwing out, and if it's not true, it's like, what?
I know that's true. Like QAnon and stuff like that. Like that's a
Yeah.
lot. They covered it on that, and that's why we drink. And yeah, it was a lot of research that Em had to go through.
Yeah, like sometimes I'm like, I don't want to add the website visits or anything to your information you're
Oh
trying to get
God,
out into the world.
the things we've had to Google for this show.
Yeah.
I'm over there like, should I be Googling conspiracy theories at work? Like, I don't know. I'm gonna go on my
Yeah.
phone. Okay, so these tests were all devoted to learning about my favorites: teleportation, time travel, and mind control.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
All the
just
fun
throw
stuff.
in like flying and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Those
yeah,
are
yeah.
like
They're
all the superpowers I'd actually want.
Oh, flying would be cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe not
Teleportation,
mind
like
reading. Not mind reading. Mind reading would suck. But
yeah, like Sookie Stackhouse in True Blood. She
yeah.
was like, "Oh, it sucks that I have to hear all these gross people's thoughts."
Yeah.
But being able to just snap and be somewhere, oh hell yeah, we wouldn't
Yeah.
have to pollute the earth with so much crap.
Yeah, I could
So
be like, bye bye. Just like bam,
I
Paris.
know this one has good goals. It has good goals. So the teleportation was to be achieved using, quote, an off-label application of Albert Einstein's heyo unified theory, supervised at the start by Einstein himself, end quote.
Oh.
So
So
apparently he
Einstein was
was
involved?
involved. I love it when there's like just these they just name drop in some of these conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Project Pegasus is all like, yeah, we had Obama and like
On
I think that
Mars
that
and
Joe Biden too. Yeah, Trump, unfortunately.
if they send him to Uranus. No.
Oh, there's also one that we could cover that's like kind of Project Pegasus y. That's called the 20 and Back program that I heard about on Creeps and Crimes. And it's like
Oh.
involves people like going and like working for this program for like 20 years and then it like sends them back 20 years back in time and they're like they don't remember any of it or something. Insane.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Slave
Yeah.
labor.
And then they just Benjamin Button you. Okay. So they said that Camp Hero's radar frequency was perfect for these type of experiments. So it's the perfect spot, apparently.
All the ley lines and shit.
Ooh, ley lines. Don't get me started. um, that's a topic we gotta cover. So, anyway, sorry, you'll get me off on a tangent. We first start to hear about this in the 80s when a man named Al Bielek, is how I'm going to pronounce it because I'm an asshole who didn't look it up. But that's what it looks like. Came out and claimed to have recovered a ton of memories from the Philadelphia experiment.
That one I've
Don't
also
know.
heard of, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I know the name.
They've referenced it on Loki in a offhanded way
Yeah.
because they showed the ship. But for those of you who don't know her, don't worry, we got you. The Philadelphia experiment, which is the one if I want to cover it more in detail on Patreon because it's also very kind of in
Oh,
depth
yeah.
and crazy. So, but we got to know a little bit about it for this one. So, it was believed to be a precursor to the Montauk Project, except it involved moving not just people through time, but an entire ship, like a Navy vessel, through time and space.
Sounds fun.
So, it was a big undertaking. Um, yeah, so I don't really know how they did that, but they didn't really know what they were doing either. Let's just say like it didn't go perfectly. That's why I definitely want to cover it on Patreon. But basically, at the U.S. Navy's Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, the ship and crew were moved 10 minutes ahead in time as like an experiment in like a mini jump in time, just a little tester.
Yeah, how bad could 10
Um,
minutes be?
yeah, they just wanted to like, I think they did that in Project Pegasus too, where he like gets taken by his dad on like a short jump or whatever. Anyway, it's been a while, but you gotta test it out. It's safe, right?
Yeah.
They're playing it safe. But the whole incident, like, allegedly was witnessed by an ex merchant mariner on October 28th, 1943.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was like a long fucking time ago. So that's said to have kind of inspired this ongoing teleportation and tests and stuff. So Al Bialik said this type of thing was still going strong in the 80s, but on a slightly smaller scale, shall we say. But this time maybe with heavier repercussions.
Yeah.
Um, they were experimenting on humans and even children. So Bialik claimed he remembered commuting to work in a time tunnel from California to New York. Shit like that just comes up in
Aren't those across
his
the
book.
country from each other?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just a little time tunnel.
I would
Maybe it's
love
just
to just like
the
boop across the
yeah,
US.
right. Like the ones that Project Pegasus talked about. Go to our
Yeah.
Patreon. I covered that. Okay. But yeah, they didn't go into it more. But he has like a bunch of books he's written that you can, or I think he was the guy that wrote the books. We'll get to it. Um, and then another fun thing in the immediate vicinity of Camp Hero is what some sources called, quote, the government's grotesque animal hybridization factory, end quote.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that sounds
No.
like a fun spot. That's located on a
Fuck.
fun name. It's on Plum Island. These innocent sounding names. Plum Island, Camp Hero.
We got the
Um,
liger, the lion tiger on Plum Island.
oh yeah, we'll get to an animal question
No.
mark. I don't know. There's nothing too horrible. Okay, according to author Michael Carroll, I cannot speak. It's a bio research facility where the notorious Building 257 gave us Lyme disease, West Nile virus, and duck enteritis, which I failed to look up what that was.
Duck enteritis? Not the
I was
ducks.
I was told I was gonna be training someone at work again, and I was like struggling to get my notes typed up too. I'm like, okay, I got it. Anyway, I probably should have looked that up. But West
It's
Nile
okay.
virus, Lyme
Yeah.
disease, these are
Yeah,
not
Lyme
good.
disease is brutal.
Yeah.
And West Nile is the one that
Gross.
mosquitoes carry, right?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
like one of the ones that mosquitoes carry, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
it's just like those freaking research facilities that keep all the fucking crazy viruses and stuff, and then they experiment on them to be like, oh, if this one got stronger, like, would we be able to fight it? And then sometimes those diseases and viruses and stuff get just leaked out by accident. Like they have, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that's what some
Yeah.
people think maybe it caused COVID, but we don't know. Nothing's been.
Yeah. I
Don't
don't
sue
know.
us. um, Okay, so this Al guy wasn't the only one to recover memories of time on Montauk either. So did at least one other person. A man named Preston Nichols also recalled the project. He is from Long Island himself, and he holds degrees in parapsychology, psychology, and electrical engineering. Smart.
Yeah.
Can see why they'd want him. Okay, he's the guy. He's written a series of books known as the Montauk Project series, which were co-authored with a guy named Peter Moon, which I don't think that's his real name, but
Yeah.
there's a few of them involved. They detailed the experience in depth, and apparently, what was it? Sorry, and apparently it really runs the gamut from time travel to contact with extraterrestrials and staging all of the Apollo moon landings. It said moon landings.
Fun.
That's a fun conspiracy theory too, in my opinion, that the moon landing's fake.
Yeah. I mean, I have to watch. Fuck. What was it called?
I don't know,
Moonwalkers? I have to.
documentary?
No, Moonwalkers. It was something about um they want to fake the moon landing and that they're trying to like make that footage or whatever of them walking on the moon. Yeah,
Oh,
so they hire
I
like
forget.
these.
Oh, that
It's
sounds
a
funny.
it's a movie. It has fuck, it's like Rupert Grint in it and
Oh,
um
cool.
Robert Sheehan from like Umbrella Academy and
Okay,
the
okay.
Misfits cuz or Misfits cuz he's who I
Misfits.
watched it for cuz I love him. He's so funny. Yeah, they're like
Nice.
faking the moon landing. They're all like super druggy and they get like a director that's really terrible. They're just gonna like direct the moon landing and they have like a sound stage. I have to rewatch it. It was pretty
They
great.
they've referenced that in Arrested Development too. They've been like, "Oh,
Mm.
that's where we staged the moon landing or whatever." Like they're on like the
Mhm.
Hollywood lot or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
I
some
see
there's some
that now.
fun like little weird facts to it and stuff though when you really
Yeah.
like listen to a podcast about it or something. Anyway, maybe someday I'll do it. Let us know, guys. Um okay, so yeah, it's been called similar to Project Pegasus as oh, well, I guess that was anyway. I'm gonna start that over again. I said it's similar to Project Pegasus because they went back to specific points in time, like Jesus's heyday, and they went back to alter the outcomes of specific battles during the American Civil War and the Second World War. So they're just
Okay.
moseying around and putting their hands all over everything and
Yeah.
mucking stuff
Sounds like
up.
the observers in Fringe. Just like
Ooh, they're
blipping
not,
through time to all the important events. They're just like, boom, September's here.
but they're not supposed to mess with stuff, right?
No,
Doesn't
they
that
don't
want to
really
get
mess
in
with
trouble?
stuff.
Yeah,
Except
they're not
September
supposed to.
when he has a baby.
Exactly. Yeah, they were all named after months or whatever. It was weird.
Yeah.
Um,
But there's too many of them for them to
anyways,
all be named after months, so just 12 of them were named after
yeah,
months.
yeah. I
And
was
then the
just
rest
like,
had
if
other
anyone's
names.
not seen it, they're like gonna be like, "What the September? Is she having a stroke?" No, just kidding. Um, okay, so back to this stroke-inducing topic. No, I should not say that. Um, they were using the same. It said electromagnetic bottle that had been used to make the Navy ship was called the USS Eldridge, so the Eldridge disappear.
Oh, okay.
And that's what they show in Loki too. They like go into that
Oh,
weird backwards world where all the extra Lokis are and all the forgotten and thrown away stuff is, and then they show the Eldridge there. Anyway, okay, so not going to bury this lead anymore because it's of course inspired something called the Montauk Chronicles, which was in 2015 and was a film adaptation. A
hmm.
film adaptation all about the conspiracy. So that's fun because it won some awards, but it more
Stranger Things.
importantly inspired Stranger Things.
As soon as you said children, I
Exactly.
was like, oh yeah, she said she wanted to talk about the
Did
inspiration for
I?
Stranger Things. Yeah.
It is. It's the
Yeah.
inspiration for Stranger Things. Yeah, and at one time, fun fact, Montauk was the working title of Stranger Things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So
There
yeah,
have
keep
been
that in
stranger
mind.
things. No,
What?
I said there have been stranger things, and the title being Montauk.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
Um, we just rewatched season 4. Oh my god, so good. So good. Cause and I was listening to Sinisterhood did a episode on the Montauk Project, so I listened to that as like one of my sources also.
Hmm.
And they were talking about how like season 2 had just ended and they couldn't get back into. One of them was like, I don't know, and I'm like, oh, you just wait, season 4.
Yeah,
It's
I
coming.
liked the last couple seasons.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, I think it was probably season 2 that was my least favorite. I didn't really like season 2 from what I
yeah. I
remember,
don't
but
really remember it.
I've never really rewatched any of them. So, but
Yeah, yeah, but I don't know that we really watched all of them, but Pat definitely was putting on season 4, and I was like, oh yeah, this is good stuff. It's creepy and it's makes me cry, and then oh, it's all the stuff. Eddie, no.
yeah, I
So
liked
good.
Eddie.
Yeah. Okay, so the I think I wrote this down right. The guys that made the Stranger Things, the Duffer Brothers.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay, so they had made a mock trailer apparently as their like pitch for this show, and it was like 30
Oh,
minutes of clip from Stephen King's movie. Can't talk today. Clips from Stephen King movies and horror movies overlaid by a John Carpenter soundtrack, and the rest is smash TV hit history.
yeah, that
Oh,
sounds fun. They should release
also,
that.
I
They
know
maybe not,
sounds
maybe they
interesting,
can't due to copyright or something,
right?
but it sounds fun.
But it's like, oh yeah, it's very Stephen King's vibes. It's like,
Yes.
like It or something where it's all little kids and whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and I did get a travel email about the Universal Halloween Horror Nights, and it's freaking like all Vecna themed this year. It's all season 4
Oh,
Stranger Things. It'd be
wow.
awesome to go to. It'd be fucking scary. um, so back to the real events, if your mind is open.
You're real, quote unquote.
This is the true story. This is what, yeah. These are straight facts. So it was when a movie came out in 1984 about the Philadelphia experiment, called the Philadelphia experiment, that Al B, I'm going to call him, felt a strange sense of strong deja vu. So that prompted him to do like the hypnosis and
Oh,
regression or
okay.
whatever. And
Yeah.
that's when he like started to get flooded with all these memories. And then he remembers being on the USS Eldridge. And then he remembered that his name wasn't even really Al B. Alec.
Oh.
What? His name was Ed Cameron, and he and his brother Duncan had been participants in the Philadelphia experiment as adults.
Oh, okay.
Except now it's 1984 and he was like an adult. So none of it made sense. So he learned that they had started bopping him and his brother around in time, basically, to the
Bippity
future to
boppity
get
boo.
wibbly wobbly.
Timey
Oh my
wimey
god.
machine. I think
Yes,
that's
they
from
Doctor
Doctor Who.
Who'd
Timey
in the
wimey.
TARDIS. They went in the TARDIS.
I'm not a
They went.
Whovian.
I gotta get
Just putting
into
that
it. I
out there.
fucking love all those actors. Oh my god. Anyway, um, they wanted to bring them to the future to heal them up from the trauma they had experienced from the Philadelphia experiment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because like I said, it didn't like it didn't go good. Picture like the one guy in Pirates who like starts to meld with the ship. He's Barnacle Bill or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I
they
am
weren't
one with the
experts
wall.
at it at the time travel stuff yet. So apparently they did something even crazier than any of this stuff we've talked about yet. When they what so they brought him to the future, they brought him to the 80s to Montauk, but then they blipped his consciousness into a 9-month-old baby that was baby Al Bielek.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Makes sense, right? Sure.
Always find it funny anything that says they went to the future, because I'm like, why are you conducting experiments in the 1980s when you have access to the future? Just go to the fucking
Yeah.
future and stay in the future then. Like,
Yeah. And can you
like the
talk to your
fuck?
people in the future? Like, do you have a telephone or do you guys have to, like, physically send someone every
Ugh.
time? How does
I'm
this
just
work?
like, why? Why are they stuck in the 1980s if they can just blip people to the future? Why are they doing these experiments in the 80s? Like, just
Yeah,
send
go to the
somebody to.
future, ask the people how we did it.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Like,
but would
ugh.
a caveman understand if someone explained to him how they made an iPhone? Or would they just have to sort of go through the steps along the way to figure it out? I don't
Maybe,
know.
but I mean, it couldn't be that hard to understand for like engineers and computer experts
Yeah,
and shit from the 80s. Like, they were fucking
they're
building computers in the internet. Like,
yeah, and then they're just sending people randomly to the future just to get all, patched up and stuff. So why
yeah.
not send them
He
to get
needs a
all learned
tetanus
up?
shot. Yeah, he
Yeah.
needs a tetanus shot. Send him 40 years in the future. Like,
Oh
ugh.
God.
Anyway, sorry, not to rain on the parade. I'm like,
Oh,
ah,
it's we have to keep a healthy skepticism in mind. Yes.
yeah,
I literally like wrote, "Stay with me now."
yeah.
So yeah, it's all over the place. The USS Eldridge teleportation was just their first attempt, so now apparently the powers that be, they've been working on the teleportation, the time travel, the telekinetic powers, the baby brain swapping, all the
Fun.
natural progressions. But here at Montauk, they tended to unfortunately prey on like vulnerable people, like homeless people, even it said they would
Aw,
experiment on.
shitty.
Yeah. Yep. We suck as a species.
I mean, I almost covered them doing the HIV and like AIDS experiments on like all the homeless black people or something, and I can't remember where it
Oh,
was.
I've heard
Yeah,
of one. Yeah, the
yeah,
Tuskegee
yeah.
with the syphilis and stuff
Oh
too.
yeah,
Oh
that's what it was.
yeah,
Syphilis. Yeah,
yeah. It's
yeah.
crazy. That
Like,
stuff like seriously fascinates me, but it's so fucked
yeah,
up
like a
and
whole
hard to like read
generation
about.
of black people they like intentionally infected with fucking syphilis and didn't tell
Right?
them. Yeah.
And this wasn't even like the experiments I talked about in like the Second World War. This was way later than that,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Oh my god, we never learn.
Yeah.
Anywho, this is depressing. I'm gonna get to the fun stuff, if there is any.
More
Everyone
experiments on children.
survives. Everyone's survived so far.
Okay. That's good.
So
Yeah,
did
I
they in
guess in
yours?
mine, hopefully nobody died.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Um. So they would use the people to experiment on. Some of them were pumped full of electromagnetic radiation to
Ugh.
see how much they could take. So actually, few survived that. So some people do die. So I'm just
Okay.
like, everyone's alive so far.
Except 2 sentences away. Now people die.
I wrote this yesterday. Okay. Um Oh, and then this is very MK Ultra y. They would take the Montauk boys and girls and break them down mentally and physically so that they could like, rewire their brains according to how
Hmm.
they wanted to
Yeah.
brainwash them. So they would have them do some of the things you see them do in the rainbow room, my rainbow room pillow.
Yeah.
um, they would have them concentrate on like manifesting an object, like a baseball on the table, and they would work on the seeing eye project, which is the type of like remote viewing that 11 was always doing in that sensory deprivation tank and stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a quote on it. So the first experiment was called the seeing eye. With a lock of a person's hair or other appropriate object in his hand, Duncan, Cameron, supposed psychic, could concentrate on the person and be able to see as if he was seeing through their eyes, hearing through their ears, and feeling through their body.
Creepy.
I know. He could actually see through any. He could actually see through other people anywhere on the planet. End quote.
Hmm.
So he was one of the most powerful, like 11, and the theory was that I did not understand this. Something like his brain got popped into a baby that was already powerful. So he's a really powerful psychic or something. My brain was broken trying to do these notes. He has
Oh,
super
okay.
powerful telekinesis. Moving on.
Super baby.
I guess that's their theory, but he's got the super powerful telekinesis and is like their resident super psychic. And there is also a chair, much like you had a chair. This is a different chair. This
Yeah.
is the Montauk chair.
Oh no, it's probably equally can recline and shit can get attached to it as mine
You're
is.
in there for someone to work on you. No, it's to like help them, aid them in teleporting the kids to different places. It helped them teleport and stuff, I guess. So,
Okay.
and when they left the chair on in Montauk all the time, it would create this wormhole that Ed Cameron, aka Al Bielek, and his brother Duncan used multiple times to go back and forth. Just pop, pop, pop.
Oh.
Then, in true Stranger Things style, something rips open and something bad comes out of Duncan's brain.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a big quote on this. I think it's from one of the books or something. We finally decided we'd had enough of the whole experiment. The contingency program was activated by someone approaching Duncan while he was in the chair and simply whispering, "The time is
We're gonna go get
now."
ice cream.
What a secretive code, eh? The time is now. Okay. At this moment, he let loose a monster from his subconscious, and the transmitter actually portrayed a hairy monster. It was big, hairy, hungry, and nasty. But it didn't.
Sorry. Was big,
Sorry.
hungry, hairy, and nasty.
But it didn't appear underground in the null point. It showed up somewhere on the base. It would eat anything it could find, and it smashed everything in sight. Several different people saw it, but almost everyone described a different beast. End quote.
Except
Wow.
it's big, hairy, hungry, and nasty.
Yeah, doesn't sound like the Demogorgon with the like
Yeah.
weird flower opening face thing.
Yeah, like the Venus flytrap of faces.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So I read it was that some of the scientists wanted to stop the program, so they had asked for Duncan's help, and that was their super secret signal. Time is now.
The time is
For anyone who watches the wrestling, it just makes me think that's what John Cena's he'd come out to his ring music and dun, 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 you can't see me, the time is now. Like John Cena to pop out from the bushes. Dun, 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 does the face, the hand waving over the face. Anyway,
now.
okay. So I don't know if it killed anybody, this supposed beast, but they did have to erase everybody's memories after, like Men in Black style. So
Nice. With a clicky
I don't
pen and
know.
everything.
He got red penned. Finally, the base was decommissioned in 1981, and 3 years later, the subterranean rooms and corridors were all filled with concrete. Or so they say. But wait, that is not the last of the activities on what is now known as Camp Hero State Park, which just overlaps with much of what was the base before. I forget what I said, Air Force Base, I think.
Yeah.
On the outside of the plastered over gun batteries, or gunneries, I think it's a place they would keep guns. I don't know. I asked Pat. He was like, mm. But somebody scratched on the outside of this, like in the concrete or whatever. Stranger, help me.
Okay.
Maybe that's why they called it Stranger Things. Stranger.
Or just because strange things happen in the show, so they're like, it's gonna be stranger. Or what's stranger than strange? Stranger Things.
Yeah. Stupid dog. Sounded
The
like my door was.
strangest things.
Yeah, I think it just comes from the stranger things have happened kind of saying.
Yeah.
Um, there's also a warning sign as you enter the park to please leave any old munitions or military equipment you might happen to find laying around. Just let someone know on your way out if you do find
Oh,
anything.
okay. You think
No big
somebody
deal.
should be going actively looking for that stuff to
Yeah, I think it
not
was.
leave it around anymore.
I think it's mostly been cleaned up, but they're like, hopefully there wasn't anything that we missed. And there's like you can see concrete, like manhole covers almost and stuff, like where things
Wow.
used to be. Um, so there's still strange things happening there. So we have the sinister Sage radio tower at Camp Hero that still stands to this day. It is no longer in use, but that has not stopped it from moving.
Ooh.
I thought, all right. Now, it already caused issues when it was still in use. Because remember how we said that the radio or the radar frequency you hear was perfect for experiments or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, people were always complaining of intense headaches in the area, as well as dogs barking and whining at like nothing, and TV and other electronics malfunctioning. And that was when the tower was in operation and it was rotating every 12 seconds when it was in use and casting out massive amounts of energy.
Jeez.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, sounds great. I want to live there. No.
Yeah.
It was also the last of the quote superpowered Cold War era Sage radar towers constructed in the event of a Soviet nuclear attack, with the intention of giving the US a 30-minute warning. The antennae emitted up to 425 megahertz, MHz, probably megahertz,
Yeah.
which is also the frequency allegedly needed to enter human consciousness. Not
Oh.
sure about that, but it sounds interesting.
Sounds fun.
So then in 2009, so this is way long after it's been out of use, over a matter of 6 days, it rotated 360 degrees. Um, yeah, it was not operational, as I said. So the fire department went in to see if someone had messed around in there, but like the building with the control room or whatever was sealed shut, and inside the controls were frozen stiffly in place, clearly untouched. And
Okay. So like the top of it's moving. I thought you meant like it
yeah.
moved across like the sand or something, and I was like, what is happening right
Oh,
now?
like the dish
The
thingy
disc.
moved.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
I was like,
There is
it's
a
just like
picture of the
fucking moving
tower.
across the thing.
It's like a rock moving in the sand over a century. No,
Yeah.
there's a picture of the tower on the drive.
Okay. Oh my
Yeah, I
god.
guess it's like the top of it. Like I don't know if it's like a dish, whatever radio tower has on top. The antenna and stuff was all
Okay.
rotating. And they tried to even manually like move the dish or whatever the fuck the top thing's called, but they couldn't even like budge it with all their like physical force. So they
Okay, I
weren't
was
sure
gonna
how
say
it
maybe
moved.
the wind,
I
but
know.
it looks pretty broken up too. Like there's a bunch of panels missing and stuff. So
Oh yeah,
like,
it's everything's getting pretty old.
yeah, wow.
And you're gonna want to look at the picture called the Rhode Island Monster.
Yeah, I just noticed that, and it attacking Obama.
Sorry, I'm cackling.
Is that the
Yes, it.
picture you said? What even is this?
Yeah, so I had to include it because I'd never seen that picture. Okay, so
He's
what we're
like
talking
high
about.
fiving while Obama's fist bumping him.
I don't
It's
know who
great.
made that meme, but it's amazing.
It's
This
going
is
on the
called the
website.
Montauk Monster. It's going on the website. Yes. I know,
Oh
we'll have to give
god, it
well,
is weird.
credit or whatever. So in July of 2008, this thing washed up on the shore near Camp
Ew.
Hero. Yeah,
It's like
it's very weird looking, isn't it?
it looks very like pig body and leggy and then a
Hmm.
bird face.
Yeah, like some people are
Like,
like, it's like a could be look like a hairless raccoon, but then it kind of has like hooves almost and like a
yeah.
weird kind of like beak thing, and maybe it had hair at some point. It's strange looking. We'll put pictures up
Yeah.
on social media,
Yeah, that's
which
really weird.
I've been really bad about putting pictures up on social media lately. Sorry. But yeah, it's definitely odd. And then there's it washed up near that supposed
Yeah.
animal facility or whatever. So that's kind of weird too.
Do they know where it is
Um,
now? Where's its little body now?
I don't know. I don't know if anyone like taxidermied it or actually tested it. I remember
Yeah.
seeing pictures of it before, but yeah, I was already so far into these that I couldn't really look too
Yeah.
much more into it.
I do
Because just
appreciate him high-fiving Obama's fist bump. That's pretty great.
I know. At first, I was like, "What is this?"
Yeah, if
Is
you
this
look up
people?
Montauk Monster and it's just like suddenly Obama.
People have too much time on their
An
hands, clearly.
accidental Obama. No, it's great.
He was in on it. He's in on it. He was in Project Pegasus
Yeah,
too. He knows everything.
he knows all
Okay.
the projects.
They got to tell you them all when you become president.
Oh, that'd be so much fun. You'd be like, day one, okay, tell me everything. And then you
I know.
probably 12 hours later are just like so shell shocked. You're just like, ah.
Yeah, I'm good now. That's why they all go gray after their president.
Yeah.
Okay, just a little bit more because there's a couple other people that came forward with memories and stuff after the first couple guys did.
Oh.
So take it as you will. But there's yeah, I got this from like a New York Post article that had a few different some of the pictures and stuff about the radio tower also, which was good. And there's a local named Paul Fagan that he believes there might be a secret nuclear reactor buried at the site.
Oh. Sounds
That's his
fun.
theory. He has spent 14 years exploring Camp Hero and researching government documents at the National Archives in Manhattan. So he's been doing some research. So he thinks it was installed in 1958 as part of a Cold War era. Call back to
Woo!
your crazy segment.
Yeah.
um, Army nuclear power program. So he thinks the conspiracy theories are to distract and a diversion for keeping people away from the nuclear reactor. But there's also a park there, so I don't really know.
Yeah.
But
Come visit the nuclear reactor. The state's most beautiful parking, like,
yeah.
picnic area.
There's another man. I think I put his picture on because they had his picture. Who know him? Joe Lafrano, 53, who grew up in Montauk and thinks he was also one of the Montauk boys. He said,
Okay.
I didn't believe it until 2 years ago, Lafreno told the Post. I was hypnotized by a certified hypnotist for about 40 minutes, and all these memories flooded back. They did a very bad thing to us out there. We were just little kids. They had no right to experiment on us. It was a very dark, very evil thing. So
Yeah.
that's obviously pretty traumatic. Whether, he obviously, feels it and believes what the memories he's recovered. Um, And he said that he believes he was abducted and abused during the summer of 1980 and possibly during the summer of 1981 when he was 12 or 13. Um, which is just really interesting to think that people could have been abducted and how would
Yeah.
that not be noticed? But I don't know. Um, he recalled under hypnosis that a local boy whom no one knew very well invited him to bike to the base. The first time, Lofrano said there were two men waiting. Dressed in civilian clothes, they ushered the boys into a sunken house on the base. Later, he said he and the other boys were brought underground through Battery 113, one of the sealed gunneries left from World War II. He remembers lying on a table with wires coming out of him like electrodes. They analyzed us like animals. He said there were up to 50 other kids there, and he believes some of them were later killed.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's pretty rough. The rest of the had a lot of quotes at the end, a little quote heavy at the end here. um, it would be easy to write him off as a kook, but he's gainfully employed at the park, has a steady girlfriend, and appears to have a solid relationship with his kids. Locals call him a friend. He said that while under hypnosis, he went to the location he remembered with another parks employee, Charlie, who was also interviewed by the Post. There, they found remnants of the sunken house from his visions. Visions.
Okay.
Park Superintendent Tom Dest did not return calls for comment. If we had a backhoe and my boss let me dig in that spot, which I know he won't, I can guarantee we'd find some cement structures down there, Lafreno said. So he's pretty convinced he's found a significant spot, but not
Yeah.
allowed to dig, which is, I mean,
I mean, it's sealed in with concrete for a reason, I'm
yeah, it's
sure.
probably not safe. I
The
mean,
government doesn't normally waste so much money just like pouring billions of tons of concrete every fucking crevice they can for no reason.
yeah,
No.
but like, why go through such lengths to close it down so like permanently? Like couldn't they have just
Yeah.
like closed off the entrances or whatever? I don't know.
Or like
Seems
repurposed it, even. They've
yeah.
repurposed a lot of like military structures nowadays, so
Yeah, there's that fucking bunker under that Greenbrier hotel that you covered. I still
yeah.
get emails from that hotel. I'm like, there's a bunker under you.
My dad was watching, he likes to watch abandoned places. There's like this thing,
Oh,
and
that sounds fun.
it's on, I can't remember what channel he likes to watch, but they were doing it and they were
Ooh.
talking about the thing, and I told them, I was like, and there's so much they didn't cover because they only talk about each one for like 15 minutes. And I was like, they left out all this stuff. Ah!
The barracks, the bunk beds,
Yeah.
the bunker beds.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fun show. I wonder if it's on like the travel channel.
Um,
Um,
yeah, something kind of like that.
I
Like,
love that stuff.
yeah,
I
it's
was
great.
flipping through, that reminded me of flipping through a book at the library that was like called Abandoned Alberta. And
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
it had the Rexall, which I was like, I drive by that every day. It's the old, it's not that old. It was only closed down like 5 years ago, the old friggin' hockey arena. It's in abandoned Alberta.
Oh,
Yeah, the
fuck
Rexall Center.
sakes.
Rexall Place, or
Wow.
what the fuck it was called. Yeah. Anyway, I
Wow.
thought that was funny. But then they had a lot of cool, like, old
Did it
abandoned
become a
silos.
spirited Halloween?
No, yeah, maybe. They're gonna demolish it, it said, actually. Which I was like,
Oh,
really? Oh, okay.
why not? Aw, I always get disappointed. Like, can't you repurpose it into something?
Yeah, it was a perfectly fine building at one point.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
I
was
guess
cool though.
maybe if
Actually,
there's too
sorry.
much structural damage or something, or
Yeah, I don't
maintenance that
know.
wasn't done.
Yeah, hopefully they'll put something there. It's good prime spot.
Yeah.
But there was also a little picture of like this little western looking cabin, and it was like this has been used as a film backdrop to stand in for like the Wild West. And I'm like, yes, because Alberta is like, we're just above Montana. Like we
Yeah.
could pass for Montana.
We got
And
mountains. They're just
exactly.
they're
Oh
not
yeah, they've done tons of stuff here.
as like reddy yellow and orange color as they are in like Montana and Arizona and everything.
Oh, right. Yeah, they got some
Yeah.
pretty cool shit down there. Monument Valley. What?
I guess we do in like Drumheller. That's a lot more like orangey reds colors
Um,
than our
and the
rock.
hoodoos.
Yeah.
I'm almost done. Okay. uh, I think we were talking about these off-air lighthouses. How they're creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, lighthouse mysteries. But there's a lighthouse on site. Which yes, gonna do. We're gonna maybe talk about some stuff lighthouse adjacent later in later episodes. So
Hmm.
stay tuned for that. But yeah, like they made it. It said that they designed the base to look like a fishing village. So maybe that's why there was a lighthouse. It said
Oh.
it said it was designed to look like a fishing village. Quote, even though soldiers actually lived there to fool the Nazis. A church that was actually a gym for officers remains, but a series of Cape Cod style houses have been torn down.
Okay.
After the war, the Air Force took over the site, shutting it down in 1981. At this point, according to Nichols's book and a host of other researchers, bizarre things started happening. I think I mentioned him briefly. Nichols, he was one of the guys that wrote one of the books and some of the memories. Nichols' co-writer Vincent Barbaric, who used the pen name Peter Moon, much cooler name,
Yeah.
told the Post, we're dealing with phenomena that is not just 3D. If you research sacred geometry, Montauk is known for being a power vortex.
Oh,
Geologically, it's
okay.
an underground mountain that comes up. It's its own separate island in a way. Something happened out there, that I'm sure of. So it's just crazy bizarre.
Yeah,
All
weird.
over. Um, one place, the New York Times had a small article, which usually they have bigger articles, but whatever. They called it the Area 51 of the East, but I didn't love that because there wasn't a lot mentioned on aliens. Maybe
Yeah.
there's more in the books. And speaking of the Montauk series books, apparently that Peter Moon guy, I want to read some of this crazy shit. He also authored a series about time travel, as well as the Transylvania series about mysteries discovered beneath the Romanian Sphinx. He is also the proprietor of the online time travel education center. What? Okay.
Sounds fun.
The who? The what Sphinx? The what?
How do I get one of these jobs where I can just dedicate 14 years to sitting in
Right.
libraries and fucking wandering a building
I'm
and
wondering.
somehow make enough money to like support myself and my family?
You just sell like millions of crazy books, yeah.
Ugh, the dream.
Finally, just to live in a library? No, that's my dream.
No, to just not have like a normal job.
Exactly, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, there was, I fucking forget what I was listening to, but there was one thing where they had either a utopia or an alien land where they're like, and nobody works more than 2 years when they're like 20 years old. And I'm like, I'm here for it.
Yes. Ugh. Show
Okay.
me to the haven.
Yeah. All right. And finally, the creators of Stranger Things, Matt and Ross Duffer, have been coy about the connection to the Montauk Project or any other potential government experiment. They have only said that ditching the Montauk title was, quote, very painful. And that is my case. Feel like that.
It's not based
And
on it, but we were gonna name it that.
yeah, exactly, right? They've been very coy about it.
It didn't even inspire it. We were just gonna name the whole show after it, but it didn't even
Yeah.
inspire it. Why
Yeah,
would
and I
you
was
think
like
it did?
reading
Jeez.
that originally it was going to be set in Montauk. Like it was about
Yeah,
the
wow.
same people, but same pilot episode, but it was not set in frickin' Hawkins, what's it,
Hmm.
Indiana or whatever the fuck. Yeah.
I can see how that could get
Ah,
to like conspiracy where this like having it separate it makes it more of like a fantasy kind of thing.
yeah, perhaps legally it's better that they distance
Yeah.
themselves a bit from it. um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
But
it's pretty cool. So I don't know. I thought it was
yeah,
an
wow.
interesting one.
Yeah, wild.
I know.
Yeah, it's weird that they would seal everything up like that when most other buildings don't really seem to be sealed, or if they are,
Yeah.
they're kind of just left abandoned. They don't really have people monitoring them and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. There's like tours and everything going on because they're like, we're gonna show you. You can tour around the building and everything like
Yeah,
that. And
yeah,
that's
that's
not
true.
happening here.
No. Yeah, they're just like, well, shut it down. Shut it
No,
all down.
fill it with cement.
They're
Yeah.
on to us. Or the Cold War's over. Time for the Satanic Panic. Time for the
Yeah.
next thing. The next war. The war on
Uh,
terror. The war on drugs. Time for the next.
Probably
Yeah.
the war on drugs. That was like
Yeah, I think that was some president's,
wife.
you
That
know,
was
favorite thing. Can't
yeah.
remember. Conspiracies. I love them. They
Yes.
are some of my
Wild.
faves.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode.
I've had fun.
Yeah. We well this is the last one, right? We're gonna have a
uh,
Patreon.
and then
Yeah.
next
Oh
week we'll
no,
be
it's not
dipping
the
our
last
toes
one.
into international waters.
Yes, we will. Yes.
And then you will be enjoying a dark cast
Take over.
special as of August 4th. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're taking the month of August off.
Yeah,
Woohoo, summer
I'm
vacation.
getting the hell out of here.
Yeah. Um,
So, but we'll still be
yeah.
working on everything in the background, making sure we come back strong in September.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. We're not going anywhere. Don't worry.
No.
All right.
We'll never come back. We'll just ghost you guys. No. We'll be
No.
back in September. Never heard from again.
No. Don't even. I told you, I'm so sad when podcasts I love say they're stopping. It makes me so
But
sad. It's
think
like
about
losing a
it.
friend.
If we did that one day, somebody on a podcast would be covering our true crime case of the disappearance of the 2 hosts of Castles and Cryptids and the conspiracy theories that surround what happened to them.
It's all a publicity stunt.
Dun dun dun!
We faked our own deaths to get fucking publicity.
That'd be pretty great. Not faking our own deaths.
No.
To become a true crime case.
No.
Conspiracy theory. Somebody's sitting here and being like, well, according to their Instagram and Facebook, and their family hasn't heard from them since this day.
No.
That's what we want you to think.
Oh, Lord. All right. Well, I want to be a successful podcast. That's what I'm going to put out in the ether. Not necessarily a true crime case, but
no, not a bad one.
Yeah, no.
Don't want to get
mystery
murdered.
Of how did they get so successful? Who did they bribe? We'll bribe whoever it takes. No.
No. We don't have that kind of money.
No, we don't. And on that note, donate to Patreon. And keep it cryptic.
Yeah. Bye-bye. This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobe Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.